Good afternoon and welcome to ArkLaTex Ag Talk with Jared Campbell, and have a special guest here with us today, Choctaw Electric CEO, Mr. Kooney Duncan. Kooney, how are things going for you?
It's good, Jared. How's things with you, man?
Things are going good for me. So,
did you get the rodeo over with?
Rodeo's out of the way. We got a little bit of sunshine and a lot of bit of water, but we got through it. That's the main thing. So, but no, we had a good crowd, good rodeo action. Of course, the main thing is raising money for the kiddos for the fair. It's coming up here in September as well. But overall, it was a good time.
The fair is always a great time, especially at Choctaw Electric. We're always glad to participate with you all in the fair. It's a fun event, and you guys do a great job with that.
Yes, lots of volunteers, as you know, man hours. I mean, you guys on the fair side, not just McCurtain County, but y'all have Choctaw County, Push County, of course, the Choctaw Electric, service area, as we call it. But no, thank you guys for your sponsorship, and then of course you have a man a table there, in the commercial building for years and years and helping us for a day in the show ring event. But anyways, well, let's get over and let's just talk about, like I said, me and you've been talking for probably a couple of months now to get our schedules to where you could come in and sit down with us and just talk a little bit about Choctaw Electric. And I thought about why not start at the beginning, Kooney.
It's kind of crazy. As generations pass, people really forget how electric cooperatives or why the electric cooperatives were actually formed. But, in your role as dealing with the conservation district and dealing with the farmers in our areas and stuff, those are the folks that actually started rural electric cooperatives. Early 1930s, only 1 in 10 farms had electricity.
Wow.
And you got to think all of the things that you do on a farm today that is involved with electricity. Can you imagine stepping back in that time and not having any type of electrical power?
It'd be a whole other world, and it was.
You don't want to be the last to get in the wash tub, right?
Yeah, literally, literally. Or go to the creek and it's cold.
Yeah. That's the thing, and that's the cool thing about electric co-ops. And I think, like I said, it's forgotten. But a group, in most of every cooperative, a group of farmers came together to try to better lives. And in our case, it all started back in 1940. We're actually celebrating our 85th year this year. But a group of farmers in the Hugo area decided it was time that they started the task. The vision and then the dedication to get this going, to bring electricity to the rural farms. And that's what they did. And so in 1940 is when it started. And then in 1941 is actually when they received their first loan. And that's how the rural electric cooperatives actually got started, is through the Rural Electrification Administration. Was created in 1936. It was a part of the New Deal. And that gave cooperatives and people that form cooperatives access to low interest loans.
Okay.
And that's how they went and financed these build outs. Before that, the farmers actually would pull their money together and to go build the line themselves and to bring the power to their homes. And today we just take it kind of for granted. We go over to the light switch and we flip it. We don't really think about what it took to get that power actually there.
Yep, and you think that's a long time ago, but really it was not a long time ago. I mean, it's kind of
I think, that's what that is my goal every day when I go into the cooperative is, to try to make this place better and to try to make it something that those individuals that had that vision and that dedication would be proud to look and say, hey, I'm glad to where it's at today.
Oh, yeah, for sure, and be honored about it.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, the evolution of the cooperative. We were started for the rural farms, but just here in our area, the step in the agribusiness that it's created, the electrification coming to this area, we don't only serve the farms now, but we serve all of the Tyson's facilities in our areas, their production facility, their feed mill, their hatchery, and then all of the homes, the chicken houses that's scattered throughout our whole area. So we have a part in every bit of that agribusiness sector. So it's kind of crazy if you look back. Not only that, but in the agribusiness of the timber, we serve a couple of the largest plants here in the McCurtain County with Huber and Pan Pacific. So I imagine those farmers, when they just wanted that one light and that plug-in, probably really didn't know the vision, what they were putting themselves out to, where we would be today in serving some of these big plants and industry that we serve.
Oh, for sure. And that's not even counting what the future holds. That we don't even know yet. Like you said, it just keeps adding.
No, it's kind of evolved. Even you take the vision that we had years and years ago to serve a little community outside of Broken Bow, and today it's one of the biggest tourism destinations in the United States, and that was because we had power there before it was what it is today that allowed it to grow to what it is today.
That's right. Yep. And seeing the forefront, with you and your crew there at the office is we see it coming, 20 or 10 years ago. Here it comes, and then thinking ahead at Choctaw Electric, because you guys always do, of, the supply and demand. And demand's, it's there. So,
yeah, and it's challenging because in our industry it takes a while to build a lot of our infrastructure, and you cannot build that infrastructure if you don't have, you can't put it before the cart before the horse.
That's right.
So it's a balancing act to be able to identify those areas that have those potentials, to put that infrastructure to be able to support it when it comes, and that's what we've had, and that's currently what we're doing in that area now. We're in the McCurtain County area. We're upgrading several substations. We're building high voltage distribution lines that can carry more power, so that, because we always want to keep reliability on the forefront of everything that we do.
Yep, that's right. And with Choctaw Electric, that's one of the things that Choctaw Electric is known for today is reliability. Things happen. Yes, it's called Mother Nature, storms, all the above, but still reliability. It's there.
Yeah, three factors that we always, our mission is always to make sure that we're affordable, reliable, and keep safety in the forefront of all that we do. It's hard to have either one or two of those without having all three of them. And that's something that we definitely strive. Since I've been there, we have taken great ownership of improving our reliability. We have invested a lot of money in our right-of-way programs of clearing our right-of-ways and putting that on a cycle, so that we don't just do it once and then kind of forget about it, that we're going to continue to do that. Our pole change-outs, we're changing out 1,500 poles a year outside of just the everyday work of extending lines and upgrading lines and things like that. So there's always something to do. But it's always rewarding, because I always look back to kind of how we started this conversation, that vision and dedication that those farmers had 85 years ago, to say, what, we're going to make our area better. So it's my responsibility to continue that legacy on for the next generation. That's
right. Because someday you want to retire and someone take over and keep the lights on and the train rolling. And, and looking back, Kooney, at that, it amazes me. Of course, there was no technology back in those days, so had those guys no electricity or know how to even start?
One of the things that was cool to me, talking about back in our history when these guys started, one of the founding board members actually donated the land for the first substation to be built. And one of the things that you have to do is monitor the voltage and stuff of that before, you got to have the right voltage. You're going to burn things up. He actually had the monitor to record the voltage in his home and constantly monitored it. So that's how a big vision has created now. It's kind of unbelievable, how they started it and where we're at today with the technology and the equipment in those stations and just our everything that we deal with. And it all started from a founding member monitoring the voltage in his home.
Yeah, and that's what, and it's just a farmer and learning electricity or trying to figure it out, because there wasn't Google then for sure, or computers and know it. That's amazing. It's and just as time overall, and then like you said, your partners, and that it's from the cities to Tyson's to the plants to even we have something else here in our back door, Western Farmers. that's a whole nother deal that we have. I think it's such a good thing for us.
Yeah, it's great for the area. Western Farmers is a big employer in our area, and it's because of the distribution co-ops that were created, then went together and formed the Generation and Transmission Cooperative as Western Farmers to actually be able to produce the power, transmit it, and then the distribution co-op takes it from there and takes it to the homes. That was all a part, that's all evolved since their start, back in mid-30s, to then create Western Farmers, because all of the Western Farmers distribution co-ops are the owners of Western Farmers.
Sure. Yep. So like you said, you still have a voice in kind of type deal, or in the meetings or the boardrooms, or it's just not a bunch of people that don't live here.
No, I think that's the important. We're very strong on our membership. We are member owned, back from the original members that signed up, put money in, and pulled it to start creating it. That's how we are operated today. We have a board that's seated by our membership. And then at Choctaw Electric, our board then nominates a board member to actually go sit on the Western Farmers Board, which makes the decisions for Western Farmers. These are big corporate companies now. Western Farmers is over $1 billion company, probably adding $1 billion in assets over the next few years to be $2 or $3 billion company. And Choctaw Electric, we serve 6 counties here in southeast Oklahoma, but over $150 million company of assets that we have stranded throughout these 6 counties to serve our members.
Yep. So, and that's a lot of things that people don't see or don't realize, besides just the lights are staying on, and like you said, and then we can kind of segue into where everything's constantly, as you're running numbers every day as a CEO, keep cost of things down, but operating at the level we need to with the equipment, manpower, salaries, all the above, and it's a juggling act. I mean,
it's kind of crazy. You think, as we've been dealing the last few years with the inflation and coming out of COVID with supply and demand, and just supply not there and the demand there drove the cost of all of our goods up, and most of the products that we purchase, we've seen nearly 100% increase since 2020. And I was looking back. Currently, our residential member pays about 13 cents a kilowatt hour. And I was looking back to 1920. They paid about 7 cents a kilowatt hour. In 1930s, about 6 cents a kilowatt hour. It went down because as more people started coming on and paying their share. But today we're at 13 cents, 85 years later, and we've only doubled in our cost. If you could find another product or service that has done that, show it to me.
Literally, and reliable. It's going to be running. Yeah,
we're continuously improving it, but that's something. I think that's why it's important being member owned. Because that's why the co-ops were created, is because there wasn't a profit margin there for investor-owned utilities to come serve those areas, or they would have served them.
Yes.
Because there wasn't any profit margin there. So that's why the government set up the Rural Electric Administration to create these co-ops, and so we are operated on non-for-profit basis. When we do have margins, we retire those back to our membership. And over the last few years, we've retired over $10 million back to our members. In the form of capital credit retirements. I know a lot of people may not understand what those are or what those are about, but that's the money that we've made throughout the years that we're now in a financial position that we can return it back to the membership that owns us. And, this year we're already got it processed. I think the checks will go out starting in September, but about a $1.6 million capital credit retirement.
Yep.
That equates to about $155 a member.
A member on that.
Which is nearly a bill for the whole year, 1/12 of their annual cost.
Yep, on that. And so, and you might have said, Kooney, how long back, when would a person be eligible, I guess is the word, to get one of those? So
we're currently on a 30-year cycle. However, we're closer than that in the number of years, because we try to keep it at about $1.5 million or $2 million a year. But, I think this year, it's going to be like 98, 90, 97, 98, 99. Those years will be retired. So if you were a member in those years, you should be seeing a capital credit check come back.
Yep. So, and if you don't, holler at the office. It might be an address change. I know a lot of them get sent back because of things like that.
Yeah, that's the cool thing too about cooperative, and we're local in our community. We still have 2 offices where our members can come in, actually visit with someone, and whether it's a set up appointment or ask about their account or transfer an account, they can come into our office and actually conduct business, and we take pride in that.
Yes.
I don't know if you've lately tried to call entity or a service that you and how long you average wait on hold before you even get to speak to someone, and then when you speak to someone, they're probably in another country.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yep. And trying to explain who you are and your address, so.
Most of our people know where the landmark is that you live down, or the milk truck that you or down that road, or whatever, because we are in your community.
Yep, and that's every day I'm in on that deal. So another great thing about Choctaw Electric, and it's not going to change, Kooney, for the next 85 years. Of course, you won't be here, but at the same time, but whoever's leading the pack, like you said, supply and demand is going to keep growing. I know that's always, like I said, on your forefront, and the boards is keeping the lights on, but also keeping those lines to where you could add more from the houses to the businesses to infrastructure.
Yeah, that's another neat thing about the cooperatives is the cooperation among cooperatives. Mm-hmm. We're very quick to share our ideas, to share our new advances, technologies, things that's working great, because a lot of times we don't have the big resources like larger utilities have. So we have to work together, and I think that's the cool thing, especially about rural America, is we're known to work together, and that's what we do as a cooperative amongst the other cooperatives is, take ideas, share ideas, new types of technologies, because it is important for us to be sustainable. We got to continue to be advancing also.
Oh yeah, for sure. And it's just like you said a while ago with the Ho-Chi-Town stuff, and before Choctaw Landing, I know that was years before that got there in the making. You were talking Choctaw Nation and trying to work horsepower. They needed their own station pretty much.
Yeah, when you have loads like that, and other loads such as Huber and Pan Pacific, those are big type loads that require a complete substation to meet their needs. And being locally managed and locally represented, we can act really quick. And I think a lot of times that's to our benefit, to be able to respond and be able to provide service in a very timely manner. Because when I talk to those people, they know they can walk in that office at any day and visit with me, and what's the issues, what's the this or that, but we can get things done.
Oh yeah, for sure. Day or night, on something like that. And so, but yeah, well, I guess we'll kind of segue into, we'll talk more on, of course, summertime's here. Knock on wood, the temperatures here lately ain't been too bad this week, but it's going to get hot again. And I know, and I'm a Choctaw Electric member, so there's a lot of times I will get an email and a text. And if you've not signed up for that, please do, about peak alerts. And it's kind of explain, I guess, what is a peak alert? We all hear them on the radio stations or TV stations, but...
So what a peak alert is just identifying a time where there's a greater demand for electricity. And so we have a voluntary program. You can do it. You don't have to do it. But it's kind of doing your part to lower our demand, which ultimately will help us lower our wholesale power cost. Mm-hmm. Because at a distribution co-op, that's how we are charged, is how we perform during these peak times. If we have a lot of load on during those peak times, we're going to get charged a lot higher amount. And the reason being is because they've got to have the generation to cover their load. Mm-hmm. And whether that generation only covers that load for a small amount of time, people still like to go to that light switch and flip it on and it comes on. So they have to invest in the infrastructure to cover those peak times. So proportionately, based on how we as Choctaw Electric are using the system at that time, that's how we have to pay. So the more that we can lower our usage during those peak times will help us bring down our wholesale power cost. Totally voluntary. Some we understand can, some can't, but it's just something that we offer our members to be able to do to have an impact.
Yep. And once you start doing that, or how long have you guys kind of been really helping push that peak? Or how many years now has that been kind of? Do you remember?
Probably the last 3 or 4 years as we've done it. We do it with our large power accounts. A lot of them also will do it. But probably about 3 or 4 years.
So in that 3 or 4 years, I mean, have you been able to see a difference in that on your system or your guys' side, kind of?
It's kind of tough because we've seen so much load growth.
Sure.
To be able to manage how much of that's dropping and how much load growth. But anything helps. I mean, it could be a small amount, but anything definitely helps.
Yep, for sure on that. We always talk about it's hot in summer. This didn't start. I didn't really think about this till some of those big storms come through wintertime. That's a whole other deal.
Yeah, so that's a big change for us, and it's going to be a big change. Used to, they really didn't care about wintertime. However, the last few years, the wintertime's demand has exceeded the summertime demand. So the Southwest Power Pool starts to notice that. So now they're starting to put cost on the winter demand, which is going to ultimately make Western farmers start having to collect during the wintertime. And us at Choctaw Electric, we are a winter peaking cooperative. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it that drives that's really inefficient heating systems, not people not having a heat pump and things like that, which when it gets extremely cold, a heat pump, is not as effective. But, having a backup propane or something to help. But when you just have those heat strips going, it jumps that demand up. And we see that because we are a winter peaking cooperative, and the costs will start following that as like I said, SPP starting to notice that they're seeing more demand in the wintertime. And which was probably going to create Western farmers, and they're having to build new generation just to cover peak, not just load growth, but to cover peak, because they have to have, you can't just have ever how much you need. You got to have an excess. And for example, like the winter, they're going to have 34% more the electricity that they need to cover the excess. So
wow.
That's a lot of money when you start having to build generation just to cover in excess of what you need.
That's right. Because if you don't do it, you won't have power. You'll
start seeing kind of like, you'll first start seeing rolling brownouts where they'll start keeping you off for a short period of time. And then ultimately, if those don't work, it'll be a blackout. And man, we don't want to do that, because if you really just sit and think about it, trying to get everything started from being dark, starting at the power plant and transporting electricity and then opening and then getting it flowing all the way to our sources would take days.
Wow. Yeah.
And in those critical times where it's extremely cold, you don't have days.
Sure.
So that's why we're constantly having to monitor, our grid.
Yep. For sure on that deal. It's and you made a comment a while ago about having to Choctaw Electric, it has to buy power. We don't own it. We have to buy it from Western farmers.
Yeah, so Western Farmers is the market participant in the Southwest Power Pool for us, and everybody purchases the power off the Southwest Power Pool grid at the cost it is at that day. So you're kind of at the mercy of what the cost is at that day. One of the things that helps us at Choctaw Electric, and we have the coal plant there outside of Hugo, is you have an 80-day supply of fuel that's sitting there on the ground, so you know what those costs are for 80 days. You have trains continuously bringing in that coal that you've got a fixed contract amount on, so you know what the cost of fuel is. Whereas, natural gas and things like that, you don't know the cost of that from day to day when you're buying it on the grid. There's things that you can do, have hedges and things in the natural gas market, but those things cost. But that plant there outside of Hugo it's a big it's big for us. Mm-hmm. It helps us, hedge our cost in those extreme times, and it's performed well during those cold times.
Oh, for sure, and that's what the years run together on me. But the last year enough, I'd say big winter storm. I felt like if it wasn't for Western being right there, we could have been out for some days, like because of the power load and things like that. So.
Yeah, it's crazy. But you're exactly right. The winter, these last, when we had first Storm Uri, we thought, well, that's a once-in-a-lifetime storm. And then we turned right back around and had the storm next couple of years. It was just as bad for us. The temperatures didn't really get to where Storm Uri the temperatures were, but our load was increasingly more.
Oh yeah, and I know you guys at that point are. It's a storm, so you're there constantly on staff, watching day and night, trying to in communication with your linemen and field guys of what's going on. On top of trying to fix whatever's broke or tore up as well.
Yeah, you're constantly monitoring those situations. You're looking at your load and your amps and things because that conductor and that wire can only carry so much load. And when that thing starts getting loaded up like that, the last thing that you want is that stuff to start trying to melt down or to burn up. Because if you lose one critical load, it can have a huge impact across your whole system trying to get that back up. Because here's what you got to think about. If you lose like a whole feeder that's got 150 homes on it for any amount of time during very extreme cold weather, when you bring that power back to them, every one of them at the same time's heat's going to be on, hot water tank's going to be on, trying to catch up from that time it was on. So it just spikes your demand crazy high. So you got to try to ride that roller coaster. So any outages during that time are very hard to overcome.
Oh yeah. Well, and like you said, and everyone drives by power station or the substations or lives by one, so and they're all different sizes, bigger and smaller, so you have an idea. But some of that equipment is not sitting on the yard at Choctaw Electric. That because you guys, if I'm saying this right, partner with Western being that big of equipment.
Yeah, those substations, Western's responsible to maintain and operate those. So if we have an event like that, that's definitely got to be coordinated with Western. They do have some pretty cool options. They have mobile substations that they can bring down and drop into place and have those rolling in a pretty short amount of time. It just works just like that. They actually, I think, have 3 or 4 of those, which is, an investment that our members have had to make, but during a time like that, it's worth it.
It don't matter. Yeah. That's it. Yep. So, and that's like you said, back to that partnership with Western and them, being right here. I know the home office is at Anadarko, is that right? And so, keeping that stuff, and Western doesn't just serve our area. They serve a lot of people all across Oklahoma.
Yeah, they're the largest G&T in the state of Oklahoma. They serve about 2/3 of the state of Oklahoma.
Wow.
It's pretty crazy. Co-ops serve landmass-wise over 90% of the state of Oklahoma.
I know that.
And a fraction of the amount of people. So we serve an average at Choctaw Electric about 5.7 people per mile on the infrastructure that we serve, where your investor-owned utilities will serve an average of 35 people a mile. So a more condensed area, they can, generate more revenue on the same amount of line that we have to build. We're very proud of what we've done. It's always kind of been a thing that your cooperative is always a lot higher or whatever, but that's not the case. Over the last 3 years, your cooperative here at Choctaw Electric has been very competitive with the investor-owned utilities, and a lot of times even at a lower cost than the investor-owned utilities, and that's without even the capital credit rebates that we give back. So, that's something that we've worked hard to do, as you talked in the early stages, is, cost. We take it serious and understanding that, widow woman on the end of the line that's on a fixed income, because we know it's a challenge to pay her bills, and everything we do, we consider that because it's costing somebody down the line.
Oh yeah, for sure on that deal. And that's what I mean. And I'm going to kind of put you on the spot here. The last time Choctaw Electric actually raised rates, it's been...
It's not been since I've been there, and I'm going on 8 years.
There you go.
Yeah, we have not increased our rates, and that's with us seeing a increase in most of the products that we buy, over 100% increase. Mm-hmm. We've just become more efficient with less and just working hard. Our employees are great. I can't say enough. We couldn't get the things done that we do without a great staff at Choctaw Electric. And those are the people in your community, teaching your Sunday school or coaching your kids' T-ball teams, that money that is those local people would stay in here, So we got great staff, man.
Oh yeah, no, for sure as well. And you could, I mean, like I said, you see them anywhere, anytime with a Choctaw Electric shirt on during working hours or not. They're still to answer questions or anything you need. And kind of like you said, going into the older lady there, gentleman there at the end of the line where. And you hear about this all the time. You see it across, well, my bill was this much one month, and next month it's jumped. And then I tell you, and this is something I always tell a lot of people too, it's a free service that Choctaw Electric offers. And whenever we moved into the house we're in now, back in 21, it's called Choctaw Electric, and they had a gentleman come out and do an energy audit and it helped us a lot. I mean, remember, we dropped 30% just to little things to show and look at for where I was losing pretty much.
Yeah, when you see a fluctuation in your bill, 9 times out of 10, it has nothing to do with the cost. It's with the usage, with what patterns you're choosing to live by. Whether you're putting the air conditioner down at 65 degrees and you're keeping the heater at 80 degrees. We at Choctaw Electric don't control that. And when you see those fluctuations, when it gets to be 100 degrees, I know you don't have to change anything, but for that house to maintain a temperature of 72 degrees inside, that unit's got to run more frequently to maintain that temperature. And I don't think a lot of people realize that. Deep freezes have got to cycle more if they're sitting outside on a back porch in 100-degree weather rather than 65-degree weather. So, the things that you're electing to use or patterns that you're electing to use is what impacts the cost of your bill. A lot of it you don't have any control of when you talk about when the temperature goes to 100 degrees and you want to keep it at 72, it's just going to cost more to cool that home.
Yep.
And I see a lot of times people comparing one bill to the next, and that's like trying to compare your fuel gas mileage to a race car to a Honda Datsun. You know what I mean? You're not saying one and the other. Somebody may have, natural gas this and not natural gas stove, or they may have 3 AC units and you got one, or so. The main thing to look at is what you're requiring to stay comfortable, what you want to do, and determine how much electricity you need. Because, like I said, our average price per kilowatt hour is about 13 cents. Most of our cost is based on a kilowatt hour. There's, a service charge of about $19.25. That's just giving us some fixed amount of money whether we sell a kilowatt hour of electricity or not, because we have a massive overhead at the co-op. Whether we sell electricity or not, those power lines have got to be maintained, poles have got to be changed out, transformers have got to be kept up, and that's fixed cost. So our fixed cost is really more than the cost of electricity.
Oh yeah, at the end of the day, and that's what I was very thankful, because that gentleman at that time, we had an older water heater, so that was pulling a lot, on that side, older AC unit and window sills, just little stuff, and I didn't realize it, but I mean, so you're losing winter or summer type deal on that deal as well. So. And talk about what kind of veg talk like on your bill, and you was talking about like it's wrote down on your bill, and even on your own Smart Hub, you can see your breakdown of what all those are. And if any questions, call the office. The girls can explain it. The guys can, as well. On that side.
Yeah, you bring up a great point about Smart Hub. That's a tool that a lot of our members, I don't think, realize that we have. You can monitor your hourly, daily use on that. You can look back at the previous year. To really want to make a change, you got to kind of know what you're using and how you're using it, and that tool gives you that ability. Report an outage. You don't have to call up a number and wait on hold and have this. If you've got your right information in there, you just got to go to that Smart Hub app, click on report an issue, and it automatically is recorded in our office, and we know about those outages. If you want to pay your bill, you can do that online. I mean, there's just so much that can be done on that Smart Hub app, and if you have any questions about it, we would love to talk to you about it. We have staff that can answer any questions. If you want to come into the office and have them to help you set it up, we would be glad to help you set it up, because that is a tool that helps us if it's helping you.
Oh yeah, for sure. In the Smart Hub, how long long has it been kind of Kooney roughly?
It's been there since I have been there. Yes.
Yep. So, but I know I say in the last few years, I say few as a minute. 5, 6, 7 years. I know it's been a bigger push to, go to, with Smart Hub. Like you said, there's so many options there.
Yeah, and it's just you can get such quick response. A lot of times when you have an outage, you got to remember, and when we have storms that's across the United States, everybody's having outages and trying to get in through the same phone lines to report those outages. So the call time where it's typically 10 to 12 seconds, can go to a minute. And I get it. During those times, you're ready to get your outage reported. So, man, all you got to do is click on that app, click on report an issue, and it's right there at your fingertips. Look at your power, your cost of your electric bill. Look at your usage. There's just so many things that you can do. It'll also compare your temperatures and show you, kind of show the trend as temperatures go up or go down. Usually your kilowatt hour usage goes up or down. So, great tool. Highly recommend it. And if you got any questions about it, that is one of the things we want to help you with. Another reason is thing that we were definitely promoting is just the electronic payments.
Yes.
Because of the mailing and different things like that, we can just speed up. You can set the day that it comes out. It doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't cost the cooperative anything. It definitely reduces our overall cost, and that's a big push that we've been, moving into also.
Yep, for sure with that. And so, but no, like I said, the Smart Hub deal is, of course, I'm on it and love it. I mean, you can, anything, even if it's just from an outage to an issue to anything at all. Like I said, you can go in there and see as well. I know some people ask me, like me being on the fire department, about, you get a call of, Miss Susan down the road, she don't really understand. So, can you you still have to call in to help to, like you said, for her to get her address if she has an outage, if she does not understand how to do that.
Yeah,
right?
it's what we typically go off of is either a pole number, a meter number, things of that sort. That gets us directly to where we need to get to. That's what our maps are referencing. Mm-hmm. Definitely we have service locations, addresses that work, but any of those, if you can get close to a pole that's close to the facility, a meter, all the meters have a number on it, and get that information, you can be able to call in anything.
Yep, for sure. Well, and I'm talking about meter real quick before we segue to our next topic here. I know you had said before we were got on the air here about meter change outs, some things. I know there's some meters that have been there for years and years. Another, deal. Yeah,
so that's the thing that we've been doing over the last about 3 to 4 years is a change out of all of our meters across our entire system. Is a little over a $3 million project that we undertook. One was the meters that we had out there had about reached their life expectancy, and two, there's just so much more information that we can get and help manage our system. For example, if we see an area that's exceeding demand on a transformer or things like that, this meter data will have that information there. We can then bring it back into the office and do different types of analytics. And the more and more analytics become, available, the more that having that information is going to be beneficial to the cooperative.
And that's for, I say the girls in the office, the guys, the girls in dispatch, or even the linemen can look at all that same stuff. And so...
Yeah, and it just makes it easy for us where you typically would have to go out, make manual disconnects, manual connects. Now with those meters, they're more automatic. They are not RF meters. You hear a lot of people that radio. Ours are not RF. They are what we call a smart meter that's got a lot of different analytics in it and looks at more the behavior of the usage at that point. But they are not RF meters.
Yep. So that's another big investment that you and the board was for the forefront of. We need to do this, and didn't cost the members. Even if you become on as a new member, it still does not. You don't have to pay the extra, for that new meter,
right,
coming on. And so on that as well. Can this kind of segue into get safety? Of course, that's number one there at Choctaw Electric. I know you're very proud of your. Someone you're talking, miles driven, hours, and you'll give those numbers about Choctaw Electric and the safety and how great you guys are there in that.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. We are in an unforgiving industry. There's not a chance or opportunity probably for second chances if you mess up dealing with the high voltage of electricity that most of our employees deal with. We our linemen we've got some. I would put some of our linemen, some of the best linemen there are in the state. They're always willing to go work outages for other cooperatives when we have a major event. That's one of the beauties about electric co-op. Be able to send people the next day to help co-ops that's dealing with hurricanes, tornadoes, or whatever. But our guys are always willing to step up. But they are very well trained. All of our linemen go through a journeyman lineman program there at the cooperative. We have ongoing safety trainings that we do, and we just have created a culture for safety, and I think that's just been just not only preaching it, but practicing what we preach. We're coming on close to 5 years without a recordable accident. Our guys have worked right at close to 1 million hours since our last recordable accident, and nearly, I want to say, close to 4 million miles driven.
Wow.
Since that. Definitely don't want to jinx it, but definitely proud of our employees and their safety record. But it's not only our employees. We have staff that go out into schools and teach programs, such as high voltage safety programs for young kids down power lines, because the last thing that we want is someone to come in contact with an energized power line, and we want them to know and respect those power lines. And we are partnered with the call before you dig, the 811. We get those calls daily, and I highly recommend, especially our farmers and stuff out there. You think, there's nothing here or there. But more and more, there's more power lines going underground. There's more, fiber optics going underground. So it's always important and safe. It doesn't cost the person calling, anything to get a kind of a clean bill of health on where you're going to be digging. So that 811 program is definitely a safety measure for those. And something else that's important, especially for like our farmers and ranchers around here, constructing facilities close to power lines, being aware of where those power lines are, not just the building or the silo or whatever. You got to think about someone being on top of that silo and having some type of object. I've got overhead feed bins, and certain times of the year, you get up and you clean them out, and you get a pipe up there or something up there, and you clean it off the edges or whatever, and you need to make sure that you got enough distance from that power line, not just from the object or the structure, but whatever you're going to have in your hand, because you never know if that gets out of control and lays over on that energized power line. I mean, that will be the end of it.
Yeah.
So before you build anything, you got questions, call us. We're always willing to come out, take a look, and be able to give you the best advice that we can to keep everybody safe.
Sure, on that. And like I said, not just the buildings. In prime example, my place, a line which was well there before my time, but going to put hay into a barn with a overhead loader or SkyTrack, or you have to kind of, like you said, just make sure the line's there, but you get comfortable and you just get used to that. And like you said, just making sure it's there, because we see it on the internet, we hear about it all over the world where a down power line on a tractor or piece of equipment out in the field, they hit it. They know it's there. They've been around it for a million times, but things happen.
Yeah, they look back at an instance and catch that guy wire, and they suck that around the tires and pull that line right down on their tractor. And I highly advise, if that ever happens, don't exit that piece of equipment unless if it's on fire or burning, and you got to be able to exit. And there are proper ways to exit if you have to exit. Be able to jump out far as way as you can from that piece of equipment by keeping your legs close together and kind of making a shuffle steps to get away with it. But the safest place, as long as there's not a fire, is just to stay where you're at, because you're insulated through the rubber tires and things of that sort. And call the electric cooperative and let us come out and make sure that power line is dead and it's not continuing to energize that piece of equipment, because we have that happen from time to time. And we would much rather come out and fix the line than have to deal with a fatality or something like that, because it's just not worth it. And I recommend too, when we have guy wires and we've got the guy guards, the fluorescent yellow guards and stuff, if you've got those on your place and they're not there and those identification, let us know so we can come out and put those on there to keep that safe, because we want to keep the power on and we want to keep you safe.
Yeah, for sure. And I know livestock, especially cattle, love to rub on those guy wires. But it's okay. I mean, they can take it. Trust me. I mean, but I was talking to, I forgot who their office last week, and usually you'll get about a call every now and then about the lights flickered, and come to find out that's usually what it is,
Yeah, a lot of times it'll be a feed yard built around our power line, and they'll have a bunch of yearlings in there, and, and they'll have flies or whatever on them, and they love to rub on those guy wires and them posts because that creosote and stuff,
Yep, for sure. Well, and you talking about the down power line, so let's talk about out here on the roads, and we see it right here with our winds and our storms we have. If you see a down power line or even a line, but the road's still open in a sense, we always say, of course, don't cross it. People do all the time on something like that.
Yeah, it's always better. Same way as, water over the roadway, a power line approaching the roadway. I mean, don't take a chance. Call in, let us get it into a safe condition, and then you can go on your way. Because it may not just be you. It may be somebody behind you. It falls on down further or something, and then it becomes more of an issue. So if you see something, and I always recommend too, our best eyes and ears are our members out there. If they see a spark or if they see something that just doesn't look right, call us. We have found more potential issues or have prevented issues based on members saying, hey, I saw this spark up or this or that, and we get out there and where lightning has struck an insulator, and it's okay, but it's got potential to blow on out and to cause an outage down the road. So we do appreciate that, and it's definitely not a hindrance to us. We appreciate our members calling in and giving us that information.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And on the safety deal, I know they're at the Hugo at the main office. Was that a couple months ago? Y'all had the big, I'll say simulator. I think you guys were featured in the Oklahoma Living magazine.
Yeah, so the statewide was actually there. What we try to do in that event is educate the first responders the best that we can, to create a relationship with the first responders and to show them and go through different scenarios with them, because one of their biggest fears as first responders is pulling up on a down power line on a vehicle or whatever, because they understand the impact that can have, and it's the challenge that will be. So the more that we can educate them and create a relationship with them, it keeps everybody safe.
Yeah, on that side. Well, and I know some first responders are listening to this, so if they've not been through that, maybe one day you're able to pull that over to the Idabel office, area and do that. What would you tell a first responder? It has a person sitting there trying to get out of a vehicle.
Like I said, the first thing that you would want to do is, unless that vehicle was on fire or you're in immediate danger, is to stay in that vehicle. And then now if the vehicle is on fire or, it's becoming a life situation, you want to get out. When you go to get out of that vehicle, you do not want to keep your hand on that vehicle. You want to stand up, clear of any type of power line, and you want to take your hands off the vehicle and jump as far away from that vehicle as you can. And once you land, you want to land with those feet as close together as possible, because if you spread that out, you create a different potential, and then that's where the electrification can come into play. But you want to keep your feet together and make a shuffling motion, small shuffle motions to get out of that zone, that's energized zone, because there could be electricity going through that ground that you'd be jumping into, different potentials, and that's what you want to avoid.
Sure.
So stay in the vehicle, but if you can't, jump clear of the vehicle and make shuffling steps.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you for that. Well, and I guess we'll kind of we're getting ready to wrap up. Talk about future. I mean, of course, that's the $1 million question. The future is the CEC. Of course, it's going to be here. But, I mean, the infrastructure, I know, of course, things have kind of slowed down in a sense with the new homes and the new developments in Hojiatown with the interest rates and stuff going on. But, what's the forefront look like?
So what we're doing right now is a lot of projects to increase our reliability. We've got some big line upgrades that we're doing in the northeast part of McCurtain County. We've got some substations that we're working with Western Farmers to get those upgraded. We're being very aggressive on our inspections and our pole changeouts, which will ultimately help with reliability. We're testing some different technologies on breakers and reclosures that will help take place of some areas that we have fuse devices. That'll help on reliability because it gives you multiple opportunities to clear an event rather where a fuse happens, burns out, and it's open. They're coming out with some new technology, so we're kind of beta testing some of that. So just continuing to try to improve our reliability with new types of technology while just beefing up our current infrastructure with bigger lines, new poles, and things of that sort.
Sure. Well, there's always that having to work with like DOT because with like the highway I live on, it's been a while now working on toward making it straighter, wider. So there's always those right-of-way lines that go beside the highways. You're having to move over, deal with all that and talk as well.
Yeah, we've got an engineer in-house that stays busy just with ODOT county road projects and so forth because it takes a lot of engineering design to get those in coordination to get those done so the state can then come in and start working on the roadway. So a lot of work goes in before you even see the state highway equipment and stuff come in there. So a lot of studying, designing of types of lines, doing environmental studies, and then we start constructing our power lines. One of the first things that happen when you start seeing a road move. So if you start seeing a utility come in beside a roadway and start moving poles and stuff, there's probably a good chance that road's fixing to get some modifications done to it. And it seems like they've opened the bucket, which has been a good thing for southeast Oklahoma. A lot of our roads have seen improvements and upgrades, and with that, then we have to do a lot of moving and changing of our electric infrastructure.
Yeah, for sure. And a lot of those lines have been there for years and years, or what I call like a single phase line, to where I know your engineers told me, we're going to go ahead and bump that up while we're here, bump it to a 3-phase or something, because we know down the road we'll need it. Yeah,
we have some basic construction standards now that we go off of. Our basic size wire, when we go to change out wire of any size, we got a minimum standard that we build to, and that's pretty much what they're referencing at that point. So when we have an opportunity to build new infrastructure, we're going to build it to a certain standard.
On that deal. And you're talking about the northern McCurtain County. Kooney, that's some rough country. I mean, that's some hill country, rock country. So trying to do overhead or underground, whatever, it takes time for one thing.
Right now we're building power line up and down Carter Mountain.
Wow.
And it's probably one of the hairiest, I would say, areas in McCurtain County. And just imagine trying to get those big pieces of equipment up there and strand new poles, or put in new poles and strand new wire up and over that mountain. It's definitely takes some planning. A lot of times they're using dozers to be able to guide the trucks into position and hold them into position while they're digging a hole on a certain slope. And but that's what I'm saying. The business that we're in is pretty unforgiving, and for us to have like the safety record that our guys have and stuff says a lot about the care that they have and the knowledge that they have of their positions.
For sure. Yep. And that's stuff that we don't see. Yeah. Just out here paying our bills and turn the light switches on, for sure. And so, big event coming up as we get to wrap up here in September.
September 27th at the Pushmataha County Fairgrounds, we'll have our annual meeting. It's always a great event. It gives our members a chance, an opportunity to come out, to visit, ask questions, which they always have that opportunity. Our offices are always open. But the annual meeting is just a time that we get to celebrate another year at the cooperative. This is where we go over a lot of the business of the cooperative to keep our members engaged, and the board interacts with our membership. And I don't know, it's a great time. We rotate our annual meeting within the three primary counties that we serve. from Pushmataha to Choctaw and McCurtain County. We've started doing that over the last several years, and it seems like it's been very positive because you got to think about the service territory. I mean, we serve 6 counties in southeast Oklahoma, and from the Hugo office to the northeast is an hour and a half, hour and 45-minute drive for us to go and to do work, or to go to Eagletown or Tom. You know, it's over an hour drive. So we've got a very spread out service territory. So this just allows members in those different areas, if they can't make that drive to McCurtain County or to Choctaw County, maybe they can make it to Push County. But this is our 85th year. It's a big celebration. Not many can say they've been around for 85 years. You know, that simple vision and strong dedication has lasted for 85 years, and we're going to celebrate it again this year. The meeting actually starts at 10 o'clock, but we'll have prize drawings and things that'll start at 8 o'clock. So get there by 8 o'clock, register, and then the business meeting will start at 10.
Yeah, no, always a fun day. Like I said, lots of vendors. I mean, I was pretty much the whole staff at CEC's there. You know, I mean, unless what few linemen are on call if they have a call at that point, you know, but they're there as well, so you can see the faces you might not see every day or see them on the roads. Even the board members. I mean, of course, your board members, they're there, so you can visit with them, which your board members, like you said, are voted on by the people of their districts. So they're the ones you still see at the community events, at the shopping centers, you know, things as well. And most
of the time, people are not shy to ask wherever they're at. So, and we appreciate that, and we try to take care of the issues as we can.
Yeah, for sure. And I know that's what, as a CEO, not all companies do this. And another big kudos to Choctaw Electric that you stand up and give your report, you know, each year. And then there's been years that, you know, questions have been asked or things or whatever's on the agenda at that time that, you know, you can give them the information they need or get it and get back to them.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing that my objective at Choctaw Electric is our transparency. You know, anything that we do is available to our members, our financials, whatever. Always is readily available to our members so that they can see, because that's the thing. We are member owned, and our members elect our board, and our board hires me. So it's definitely important to never forget that.
Yep, for sure. Well, Kooney, what have we missed?
I think we've covered a lot, from the creation of electric co-ops to our 85th annual meeting. It's great to be able to talk about the co-ops. I have a great passion for electric co-ops. You know, I'm starting my 22nd year in the electric co-op family, and it's exactly what I just said. It is a family, and you know, it's something that I always tell our younger employees. You know, don't forget who we serve and why we were formed, because you know we were formed to help those in the rural parts and be able to have reliable electricity. So glad to be here. Glad to visit with you.
Yep. No, it's been fun. And you talk about, you know, also as well to our younger crowd or anyone that's listening to us about, you know, if you want to become a lineman, we could always use a lineman or two, couldn't we?
Yeah, that's something that we definitely take pride in. There's no local interns we turn down, you know, that's either going through the OSU Okmulgee School lineman program. You know, the Kamishi Tech Center there at Hugo now has created a lineman program. We actually was part of helping create that. So if there's a young man or a young woman that wants to become a lineman that goes through those programs and wants to do an internship, we're going to do everything we can to be able to give them an opportunity to do an internship with us. And that's been a very successful program, because that's how we've been able to hire some of the best linemen, because we've seen them as interns and seen their work ethic and be able to just kind of get an idea of what we would get as an employee. And that's been very successful, and we've got some great linemen out of those programs.
Oh, for sure. You know, in years to come, a lot of the linemen have been there for years. They want to retire, you know, so they can just forward to step their way up to where they can take over service area and get the service truck. I mean, like you said, and all the good stuff to go with it as well. And a good paying job here at the house. It's
definitely a good job. And like I said, it's a family job that you can, it's, you know, just an extended family of your own family getting to work for the co-op.
Yep, for sure. Well, Kooney, thanks so much, my friend. Good to see you as always. Thanks for all that you do and all that Choctaw Electric does. Not only keeping the lights on, as you hear on the radio station for the advertisements, but also for everything you do as a community community, and we just talked a very small minute of what you guys do in sponsorships and different things in the community, but you guys do so much across all the counties as well. And so big thank you to them as well. But as we get to wrap up, again, guys, thanks so much for joining us here at ArkLaTex Ag Talk, and we'll see you on the next episode.